Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm doing a discussion about a drone design that I made. I have a little poster here that I put together in Keyshot, and I want you to know I'm glad you're here and welcome. Have a good time. I do have a YouTube channel. The name of my YouTube channel is Patrick Gray, and I do put videos there on a lot of different topics. I have a website, Piston Robot. There's a menu, and you can go to discussions about a robot or not about a robot. The drone discussion is not about a robot, and on that page is a page called Heavy Lift Drone, and that's where I discuss the drone on my website. I do always like to remind everyone any physically real object has the potential to hurt somebody. My advice is if you're managing a physically real object, you should manage it in a manner that is legally allowed and reasonable and safe. And if you can't manage it in that way, my advice is do not create it as a physically real item. And I will see if I can pull up for you my YouTube channel. I tried to put the word heavy lift drone in all of the YouTubes that I made about the drone, and there's I think so far 19 of them. And so there it is. That's the YouTube channel. And we're going to talk about the topic I call autonomy. Autonomy is a very interesting topic in the area of aviation. We're going to be talking about autonomy in a drone. I think it's a topic I'm not sure everybody has a real complete understanding of how drones work. Now, this is the drone that I designed for the military. It's got the two Rolls-Royce CTS 800 helicopter turboshaft jet engines, and these jet engines are running the hydraulic pumps. There's the pumps connected to the jet engine, and these pumps are sending fluid out to hydraulic motors that turn the propellers. This is the drone that I designed, and I chose the de Havilland for a reason. This plane is very, very famous. Let's see, it's like about 5.5 feet tall, 4.5 feet wide, and 17 feet long. I think this is what the military is going to want. This plane weighs 3,000 pounds. You can put 1,000 pounds of payload in it and 600 pounds of fuel, and it will take off going straight up, needing 1,400 horsepower to do that. Here's some images of that plane. This is de Havilland is the company. They're in Canada. They named their planes after animals, and they named it the Beaver. The U.S. military designation of it was DHC-2. But this is a great little video that shows what the pilot would see if he was inside this plane. Now, all of this stuff that you're seeing here would not be here, but in the drone that I designed, it's not necessary. And here is a discussion of it as a plane. Here's the pilot. Here's all that space behind it. And all I did in my drawing program is I just copied this. The interesting thing about a drone is that you have vertical lift from these 6 propellers. These are pusher propellers. These are pulling propellers. And the question becomes, well, and you can see these are my little mannequins. They're about 6 feet tall, so it's maybe 12 feet in the air, and they're looking at it. And the question is, well, how is it doing that exactly? And the answer is, this was quite a surprise to the scientists. The control and the flying and what we call the stable hover of a drone is related to a loop. And the thing about a loop is you have to start somewhere. So I said electric motor, but these are actually hydraulic, bent axis hydraulic motors. There's a sensory system in the drone that prepares sensory information about the status of the drone. That sensory information is sent to the central processing unit. The central processing unit compares the actual status of the drone against the status that the central processing unit wants it to have. And it comes up with decisions about what it wants to do to change the power settings on these propellers to bring the drone back to the condition that it wants. And it sends these commands out as digital commands to a device that takes digital information and alters the electrical power going to these motors. And the reason I say electric is because that was the secret that allowed creation of drones. One of the secrets is that this power setting on these propellers has to be constantly changed, and quickly, and by minute amounts. And electric motors can do that. But you'll notice that when I'm showing you this, that there's no human being in here. This guy is sitting in here, but he's just sitting there. And it took him a long time to figure out that human beings are not able to control a drone. And we'll go over to the other picture to show you that. All right, and let's go over to the other picture. This is the same exact picture, except in this one, we've added this person who is telling the drone what to do. And what they discovered was, and this was what allowed all drones. This was something that it took them a while to figure this out. If we had a little black, it was a green box. There's a green box right here with 6 knobs on it. Each one of these knobs controls one of the propellers. What they discovered was if you gave this box to this person and said, get this drone up in the air, human beings cannot do that. There are many reasons, including they can't turn the knobs fast enough or precisely enough. They can't turn all 6 knobs at the same time. And to figure out what is needed to be done to these propellers so that this drone is stable, they have to do a calculation for each motor of what they want done. And those calculations need to be very precise, and they're big calculations and they take a while. This calculation needs to be done about 10 times per second. Human beings cannot do this. And what they realized, the scientists, is if they took this loop and had it running with no human beings involved, they had a stable drone, stable hover, stable flying. What they discovered is the human being is able to have an effect on the drone, but the human being makes a request to the drone, to the central processing unit. And the central processing unit looks at flight control and safety issues and decides what is being requested and decides how it's going to work in what has been requested into the flying of the drone. So it looks, what is this, maybe 12, 14 feet? If he said, I want you to go up so you're 26 feet high in the air, the central processing unit is maintaining the drone in a stable condition, and it will add 10 feet of altitude, and it will work that into this loop as it can so that it's done in a reasonable and safe manner. Now, all of this happens very, very quickly. So this person will have the opinion, whatever I tell this drone to do, it does, but that's not what happens. This is what's telling the drone what to do, right there. And even if you have a human being inside the drone who has a control panel, he also, or she, is not able to actually control the drone, and that gives the drone autonomy. And this is fundamentally important and something that not everybody understands about drones. What I want to do is celebrate this autonomy and just put a server in there that's got not only control of the drone, but has inside of that server proactive and a little mini AI to watch over this drone and make it fly well, so that the pilot inside the drone can pay attention to the drone. And so it's not required that the pilot has to have 2 or 3 years of training and be a fully qualified military combat pilot, because the flying of the drone and the answering of the flight related issues is not done by the pilot. It's done by the central processing system of the drone. And what this allows is that if you require them to be fully trained combat aviation pilots, you're going to wind up that these drones don't go out in the military very far, because pilots are rare and valuable, and they have other much more complex aircraft to fly. I want to hand this drone flying as a combat aviation ability to an isolated military outpost. Remember, this drone doesn't need a runway. So the outpost doesn't have to build a runway, maintain a runway, or protect it with forces. And you could just have the commanding officer of the outpost choose one of his senior, dedicated, intelligent, hardworking, enlisted persons and say, you are now in charge of combat aviation for this outpost. And the reason that can be done is because this person does not have to have all of the combat aviation training of a fully qualified military pilot. And I just wanted to show you that base that I put together for that. So this is a drawing in SketchUp. It's Afghanistan Forward Operating Base Delhi. Here is that base. This is 150 feet from here to here. And I've added on to it this hangar or little tiny airport that they have brought in these drones and put them here, and they're putting them up on the HESCO bags, or the HESCO sand-filled containers with the trusses on top. I was going to put sandbags on top of that, but I wanted you to see that you could create the equivalent of air combat operations at a forward operating base. This is all because of autonomy in the drone. And we'll take a look at another image. And this is that same image in key shot. Again, showing the trusses sitting on top of the HESCO bags. And the purpose of this is to have these, you'll see that this doesn't have a door. But if a explosion happened here, it would not hit these drones that are inside it. And they would sit there and be ready, and they could be deployed to go out and help the forward operating base. And I think I have some, yeah, I think this is such a cool image. There they are, sitting in there, waiting to be used. And here's the pilot in there getting ready to take it off. And so they're protected and safe, and they're at the forward operating base. And all of this is possible because of autonomy. And she is exercising her autonomy to point to the clock, giving me the message, I'm done. I'll do another video on this topic.